Have you ever watched the person you love become a complete stranger right before your eyes? I saw it in the cold blue glow of a phone screen at 2 in the morning. Her name was Sarah, my wife of 10 years, and she was asleep next to me, breathing softly, the very picture of innocence. But the screen in my hand told a different story. It was her phone, left unlocked on the nightstand, and a single notification had woken me from a dead sleep. It wasn't the message itself that broke me, but the name attached to it. Mark. A name I didn't know, accompanied by a heart emoji that felt like a punch to the gut. My world, once a sturdy home, had just been reduced to a single, terrifying crack in the foundation. I knew, in that silent, dark bedroom, that if I opened that message, nothing would ever be the same again. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. Our life was supposed to be a Chicago dream. We had a condo overlooking Lincoln Park, a life built on a decade of shared jokes and quiet promises. I was a financial analyst. She was a rising star in a downtown marketing firm. We were that couple, the one our friends pointed to as the goal. But that night, the goalposts didn't just move, they vanished. The strange behavior had been subtle at first. Late nights at the office became more frequent, explained away with a new high-stakes project. Her phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter, was now perpetually attached to her hand or tucked screen down beside her. When I'd ask about her day, the answers became vague, polished summaries instead of the messy, detailed stories she used to tell. A chill had entered our home, a quiet draft I couldn't locate. The discovery was a slow, agonizing bleed. It started with that text. I didn't open it that first night. I was a coward. Instead, I put the phone back and lay there, my heart hammering against my ribs until dawn. The next week was a masterclass in self-torture. I started noticing things. A receipt from a restaurant on Rush Street for a table for two, on a night she was supposedly working late. The scent of a cologne that wasn't mine clinging to her coat. Then came the phone calls she'd take in the other room, her voice dropping to a murmur. She became a ghost in our home, physically present but emotionally a million miles away. When I tried to bridge the distance, to ask if something was wrong, her eyes would turn to ice. "You're being paranoid, James," she'd say, her voice dripping with a condescending pity that made my skin crawl. "Maybe you should think about why you're so insecure." She was a master manipulator, turning my pain into a weapon against me, making me question my own sanity. She and this invisible Mark were untouchable, living in a world I wasn't allowed to see, while I was the crazy one for noticing the door was wide open. The breaking point came on our anniversary. I'd booked a table at our favorite spot, the one where I proposed. She canceled an hour before texting me, "So sorry, slammed at work, rain check." I knew it was a lie. I felt it in my bones. I walked out of our condo and just started driving, no destination in mind, the city lights blurring through my tears. I ended up in a parking garage on North Michigan Avenue, the engine off. The silence of the concrete tomb amplifying the screaming in my head. I wasn't just sad. I was humiliated, erased. I was a footnote in my own marriage. I sat there for hours. The image of her laughing with him, touching his hand, playing in my mind on a sickening loop. That was the night the grief died, and something else, something cold and hard and patient, was born. The tears stopped. My hands stopped shaking. I started the car, and as I pulled out of that garage, I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a strategist. The first step was proof. Undeniable, soul-crushing proof. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop who'd seen it all and wasn't shocked by my story. While he worked, I became an actor in my own home. I played the part of the slightly distant but still loving husband, stopped asking questions. I brought her coffee in the morning. I listened to her fabricated stories about work with a serene smile. Inside, I was a coiled spring of fury. The PI's first report landed in my inbox a week later. It was a gut punch. Photos, her and him, Mark, a smug-looking real estate developer, leaving a boutique hotel in the Gold Coast, his arms slung possessively around her. They were laughing. The PI had also installed software on her laptop, giving me a live feed of their chats. I read every word. The way they mocked me, the way she called me predictable and boring, the way they planned their future, a future built on the ashes of my life. I saved everything. Every photo, every chat log, every hotel booking. I created a digital fortress of her betrayal, each file a brick in the wall of her eventual ruin. My revenge wasn't going to be a simple shouting match. It was going to be a demolition. I learned that Mark's real estate firm was seeking a massive round of funding for a new high-rise project, and that Sarah's company was a potential anchor tenant, a deal she was personally overseeing. It was also disgustingly convenient. I also discovered they had leveraged their personal assets, and even some of Mark's company funds, to invest in a speculative tech stock, confident it would explode. They were arrogant. They felt invincible. I started setting the traps. Legally, I met with the best divorce attorney in Chicago, a shark named Ms. Albright. We structured everything to detonate at once. Socially, I began compiling an email. It's a very special email, with a very specific recipient list. The entire board of directors at Sarah's company, the investors in Mark's firm, and, for good measure, Sarah's deeply religious and image-obsessed parents. The email's subject line was simple: a matter of integrity. The attachment was a password-protected file named the Sarah and Mark Project. The day I chose was the day of Mark's big investor presentation. It was also the day Sarah was scheduled to present the anchor tenant proposal to her own board. It was their coronation day. That morning, I made her breakfast. I kissed her goodbye at the door, looking deep into her eyes. "Have a great day, honey. You deserve all the success in the world." The look of dismissive affection she gave me was the last time I would ever see her as my wife. At precisely 10 a.m., as Mark was starting his pitch, I hit send. I also made a single phone call to an old friend who worked as a journalist at the Chicago Tribune, tipping him off about a major scandal about to break regarding a prominent developer. Then, I forwarded the PI's report on Mark's creative accounting, the sex whistleblower hotline. The fallout was biblical. I watched it unfold from my lawyer's office. Sarah's presentation was interrupted when the CEO received the email. She was fired on the spot, escorted out of the building with a box of her things in front of all her colleagues. Mark's presentation imploded when his investors started getting notifications on their phones. The funding was pulled instantly. The SEC tip led to an immediate freeze of his assets and an investigation that would ruin him, the tech stock they'd gambled on. I'd sent an anonymous data-rich report to a financial watchdog blog a week prior detailing its fatal flaws. The stock had crashed that very morning, wiping them out completely. She called me, of course. 100 times I didn't answer. She showed up at the condo that evening, but I had already had the locks changed. I watched her on the security camera feed. The arrogant, untouchable woman was gone. In her place was a wreck. She was sobbing, banging on the door, begging my name. She cried and begged, but I had already recorded every single moment of her deceit. There was nothing left to say. I just sat there in the quiet of our one shared home and watched her crumble. After an hour, she finally gave up, slumping to the floor in the hallway, a portrait of absolute devastation. I sold the condo. I moved out of the city. I never saw her again. Sometimes late at night, I think about that moment, watching her on the screen, and I feel a flicker of something. It isn't satisfaction. It isn't happiness. It's just quiet. The chilling silence of a perfectly executed plan.